The sun was just beginning to rise over the desert. Pale orange light stretched across the dusty horizon. A long, winding highway cut through the empty land like a scar. It was quiet. Peaceful. Almost too peaceful. A large 18-wheeler rumbled steadily down the road. Its chrome grille caught the morning light. The engine growled low as it pushed through the desert wind. Behind the wheel sat a woman, mid-40s, calm eyes, and a sharp jawline hardened by time. Her name was Sam Torres. To anyone passing by, she looked like just another trucker on a long haul. Hair tied back. Sleeveless shirt. Muscular arms. A slight limp when she walked, but you had to watch carefully to notice it. She sipped black coffee from a steel thermos. A country station hummed on the radio, but her eyes kept scanning the rearview mirror. Not because she was paranoid, because she was trained. Sam wasn't just a truck driver. She used to be Special Forces, a retired Green Beret who'd done 5 tours overseas. She didn't brag about it, didn't wear the shirts, didn't hang flags or stickers. She didn't need to. The battlefield had left its mark on her in ways people couldn't see. Now, she hauled freight for a small company out of Texas. Quiet life. Just her, the road, and the radio. But today felt off. A dusty pickup truck had been trailing her for the last 20 miles. Faded blue paint. Tinted windows. Kept a steady distance. Every time she slowed, it slowed. Every time she sped up, it followed. Sam glanced at her GPS. There was no town for another 60 miles. Nothing but open road and cactus fields. Her fingers tapped the steering wheel. She didn't like it. Reaching down, she slid open the glove box. Inside, an old photograph, a worn army coin, and a small 9mm pistol. She checked the magazine, slid it back in, and placed it beside her seat. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes turned sharp. She spoke softly to herself. If they're just tourists, fine. If not. The radio crackled. The pickup behind her blinked its headlights. Sam narrowed her eyes. She'd seen this kind of move before. In places far from home. On dirt roads that smelled like fire and fear. This wasn't random. She looked ahead, miles of empty highway. Then she looked in the mirror one more time. Her voice, cold and steady. All right. Let's see what you really want. Sam kept her truck steady, eyes on the road. The pickup behind her was still there. She checked her mirrors again. Her gut told her this wasn't just some driver messing around. 15 minutes later, she saw it. A makeshift checkpoint ahead. 2 SUVs parked sideways across the highway, blocking both lanes. Men stood around them, holding rifles. They wore jeans, vests, and sunglasses. No uniforms. No badges. A tattered sign leaned against one of the trucks, Federal Inspection Point, written in spray paint. Sam frowned. This wasn't a government checkpoint. This was a trap. She slowed down. Not because she was scared, but to get a better look. One of the men stepped forward, waving her down. His stance was wide. Cocky. Like he'd done this before. Behind her, the blue pickup finally caught up and parked on the shoulder. They had boxed her in. Sam calmly turned off the engine. She opened her door, stepped out slowly. Her boots hit the pavement with a solid thud. She grabbed a clipboard and walked toward the men like she was just another trucker doing her job. "Buenos dias," she said flatly. The leader, a thick man with gold chains and a rifle slung over his shoulder, smirked. "Where you headed, senora?" "Texas," Sam replied. "I've got frozen goods. Schedule's tight." He glanced at her clipboard, but didn't read it. He wasn't interested in papers. He looked her up and down, then laughed. "You're alone." Sam didn't answer. He leaned in closer. "You see, this road has a fee today. Special toll for solo drivers." Sam's eyes didn't flinch. "This isn't your road." Another man chuckled. "You think this is America, lady? You're in the wild now." Sam stood there, silent. Assessing. 5 men. 2 SUVs. All armed. One behind her in the pickup. She spotted a radio on the belt of the leader. Cheap gear. Probably cartel runners. Local muscle. Not trained. Not organized. They had numbers. But she had training. She gave a thin smile. You really don't want to do this? The leader burst out laughing. You gonna stop us, Senora? With what? Your clipboard. Sam's grip on the clipboard tightened just slightly. She glanced at the truck. Still running. Doors closed. She'd left the pistol behind on purpose. She wanted to know what they wanted first. Now she knew. They wanted money. And control. She nodded slowly. Okay. Give me a minute. She turned and started walking back toward the truck. One of the men raised his gun. Don't move. Sam didn't stop. You'll regret it if you follow me. The leader shouted. Let her go. She's just getting cash. Sam's boots echoed on the asphalt. Steady. Come. But inside her mind, the switch had flipped. She wasn't just Sam the driver anymore. She was Sergeant Samantha Torres, retired Green Beret. And she was about to remind them what that meant. Sam climbed back into the truck, shutting the door with quiet control. The windows were up, the engine was humming low. Outside, the cartel thugs were watching her, still laughing and gesturing like they'd already won. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. Instead, she reached under the seat and pulled out her old tactical duffel. It wasn't flashy, just black canvas with worn zippers, but inside was everything she needed. Not just the pistol, but a small tactical knife, a GPS beacon, flashbangs, leftovers from her military days. She kept them legal. Barely. She loaded the pistol with practiced hands. No shaking. No hesitation. Then she looked in the side mirror. The man from the blue pickup had stepped out and was now walking toward her. Slim build. Dark shades. Holding a short rifle, pointed down but ready. Sam exhaled slowly. One shot would alert the others. But one move too slow, and it was over. She waited until he was 5 feet away. Then she kicked the door open. It slammed into his chest and knocked him flat. In one motion, she jumped out, grabbed his weapon, and locked him in a chokehold from behind. He struggled, but it was over in seconds. She dragged him behind the trailer. Silence. No one saw. She knelt down, took his radio, and pressed the side button. Static. Then a voice. Ramon? You got her locked. Sam clicked the button and answered in a rough tone. Yeah. She's coming. She stood, wiped the dust from her jeans, and walked back toward the front of the truck. The rest of the men were still waiting. Joking. Smoking. Guns relaxed. Sam approached slowly, her hands loose by her side. The leader raised an eyebrow. Where's your wallet? Sam tilted her head. Didn't bring it. He laughed. So what now? That's when she struck. A sharp kick to his knee, and he dropped. Before the others could react, she elbowed one in the throat, twisted his rifle away, and slammed it against the side of the SUV. One tried to draw, but she was faster. Knee to the stomach, then a punch to the temple. He hit the ground hard. In less than 10 seconds, 3 men were down. The 4th scrambled back, tripping over himself, yelling into his radio. Sam grabbed the leader by the collar, lifted him halfway up, and whispered, I was trained to take down warlords. You're nothing. He blinked, dazed, and mumbled, Who are you? She stepped back, let him drop, and turned to the last guy, still holding his weapon but shaking. She raised her hands slowly. You really want to try? He ran. Back into one of the SUVs. Peeled out down the highway. Sam didn't chase him. She didn't need to. The message had been sent. Loud and clear. Sam stood in the middle of the highway, catching her breath. The dust from the fleeing SUV was still settling. The morning sun was higher now, casting long shadows across the pavement. She glanced down at the unconscious men on the ground. 3 were out cold. One was moaning quietly, trying to sit up. Sam didn't bother with them. They weren't the real problem. She knew how these kinds of groups worked. The guys on the road weren't in charge. They were sent. And when they didn't report back, someone would come looking. She wiped sweat from her forehead and got back in the truck. started the engine. Time to move. She rolled forward, slowly driving around the SUVs that still blocked the road. One had its tires shot. Another was leaking oil. She didn't care. She had to get distance between her and this mess. The GPS showed 52 miles to the next town. A small place on the border. She'd planned to stop there anyway, but now it was urgent. As she drove, she switched frequencies on the truck radio. She used an old code from her military days. Not many knew it existed, but those who did would recognize the signal. She sent out a short burst. A warning. Then she turned the radio off. Silence returned. But her instincts screamed. She hadn't seen the last of them. About 30 minutes later, as she crested a long hill, she saw it, dust rising in the distance behind her. 2 black SUVs. Newer. Moving fast. Windows tinted. The real enforcers. She cursed under her breath. They're coming. Sam floored the gas. The truck groaned and picked up speed. But it was still a freight hauler, not a race car. The SUVs were gaining. She didn't panic. She reached under the seat again. Pulled out a metal case. Inside were road flares, a strip of old tire spikes, and a map. She chose a sharp turn ahead, one with a blind corner and loose gravel. Then she set her trap. A few minutes later, she slammed the brakes, jumped out, and laid the spike strip across the road. The sound of engines roared behind her. No time. She got back in the truck, accelerated, and rounded the bend. Moments later, pop, pop, clang. Tires burst. Rubber flew. Sam glanced in the mirror. One SUV had swerved into a ditch. The other barely held the road, limping badly. She didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. Just drove. This wasn't over. Not until she made it to town. And even then, she wasn't sure. Sam reached the edge of Santa Florencia, a sun-bleached border town nestled between rolling hills and dry ravines. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. A few kids played near a dusty convenience store. An old man swept his porch. The kind of place people pass through without stopping. She pulled into a small truck stop on the far end of town. No other semis. Just her and a rusty pickup by the pumps. The clerk inside glanced up as she stepped in. Middle-aged, tired eyes, leaning on the counter with a cigarette and a warm soda. Sam asked for gas and pointed at the old phone in the corner. "Out of service," the clerk mumbled. She nodded. "Expected that." "Any trouble out there?" he asked. She didn't answer. Just looked at him a moment, then stepped outside and began fueling up. She needed to think. The spike strip would slow the cartel's response. But not stop them. They'd regroup. Probably call in someone higher up. Someone with more pull, more power, and less patience. She knew she couldn't outrun them forever. But maybe she didn't have to. She looked around. The town was quiet, but she noticed something strange. No local cops. No border patrol trucks. No security cameras. And too many empty storefronts for a town this size. Something was off. She walked behind the gas station to check the back alley. That's when she saw it, fresh tire tracks leading to a warehouse just across the lot. 2 black SUVs parked beside it. Her stomach sank. They were already here. The first attack wasn't random. They knew she was coming. She walked back to the truck, calm but quicker this time. Opened the side panel of her trailer. Inside was a hidden compartment, military grade. Not something the company knew about. From it, she pulled out a tactical vest, another loaded pistol, and a small earpiece. As she suited up, she scanned the horizon. She could try to sneak out of town. Or, she could end this. She weighed the choice. And then she saw movement, 2 men walking toward her truck from across the street. Clean cut. Not locals. One lifted a phone and snapped a picture of her plates. They weren't here to talk. They were tracking her. Sam's voice was quiet, but firm. "All right then." She closed the panel, stepped back, and locked the truck. Then she walked straight toward them. Sam walked straight toward the 2 men. They squared up like they owned the street. Both wore sunglasses. One had a tight black shirt that showed the bulge of a pistol under his waistband. The other held his phone out like he was recording her. Or worse, streaming live to someone else. Sam didn't flinch. "Looking for something?" she asked. They didn't answer. Just smirked. Then one of them said, "You're not supposed to be here." Sam tilted her head. "Neither are you." That's when she heard it, the low hum of an idling engine behind the warehouse. She kept her voice low. "Come. You waiting on backup?" The man with the phone smiled. "Already here." Sam moved first. She grabbed the man's phone and slammed it to the ground. Before the other could reach for his gun, she twisted his arm, shoved him into the wall, and yanked the weapon away. The fight lasted seconds. Both men ended up on the ground, winded and groaning. But before she could move again, she heard footsteps, multiple pairs. She turned. 4 more men came out of the alley by the warehouse. Heavily armed. Not street muscle. These were professionals. Military stance. Eyes scanning. One of them barked an order in Spanish. Sam ran. She ducked behind the gas station as bullets ripped into the pavement. She drew her pistol and returned fire. 2 shots, fast and tight. One of the shooters dropped, the others scrambled for cover. That's when she felt a hand on her arm. It was the old man from the porch. "Come on," he whispered. "This way." He pulled her behind the store and into a narrow alley. "I don't know who you are," he said, "but they've been watching this town for weeks. You stirred something up." Sam nodded. "Good." They ran through the alley and ducked into a small auto garage. Inside, a woman in her 30s stood holding a wrench. She looked surprised, but not scared. "She's not one of them," the old man said. The woman nodded and locked the doors. For a moment, it was quiet again. Sam looked around. "You all know what's going on?" The woman nodded. "Cartels using this town. Shipping goods. Moving people. They pay off the mayor. Run out the cops. Anyone who fights back disappears." The old man added, "But some of us have been waiting. Watching." Sam raised an eyebrow. "Waiting for what?" "You," he said simply. Sam couldn't help but chuckle. "Wrong person. I'm just a trucker." The woman looked her dead in the eyes. "No. You're the one who hit back. That's enough." Sam checked her ammo. "If we fight, they'll come hard." The woman picked up a shotgun from behind a shelf. "Then we make it count." The sun was dipping low behind the hills. The whole town of Santa Florencia seemed to be holding its breath. Sam stood inside the garage with the old man and the woman beside her. They weren't soldiers, but they were angry, and they were ready. Outside, the cartel regrouped. 5 more SUVs had rolled into town. Dozens of men. Heavily armed. They weren't hiding now. They thought they had her cornered. But Sam wasn't cornered. She was baiting them. Inside the garage, she laid out a plan. Fast and clean. Cover the front with smoke. Use the rooftop of the store for overwatch. Pull them into the alley. Cut them off from behind. The woman grabbed a radio. "We've got 5 others in town. We'll signal them." Sam paused. "They know how to fight." The woman's eyes narrowed. "They've been waiting to." 10 minutes later, it began. Smoke grenades rolled from the garage roof. The front of the shop was suddenly clouded in thick gray. The cartel men shouted, confused. That's when Sam made her move. She sprinted up the back stairs of a nearby building with her rifle drawn. From the roof, she had a perfect view. She picked off 2 cartel soldiers instantly. In the alley, the woman and 2 townspeople ambushed the next group. Shotguns roared. Bodies dropped. One SUV was set on fire. Another hit a spike strip. The town had become a trap, and Sam was in control. She moved like a ghost. From rooftop to stairwell to truck bed. Every shot she took was fast, sharp, effective. A retired Green Beret at war again. They never saw her coming. The leader of the cartel unit, bigger, better equipped, came out last. He had a radio and a scoped rifle. He barked orders in Spanish, furious. Sam waited until he stepped into the open. Then she dropped down behind him from a rooftop, wrapped her arm around his neck, and whispered, "You picked the wrong truck." Then she slammed him into the pavement. Hard. The rest ran. By the time the dust cleared, the town was quiet again. No sirens. No police. Just the people of Santa Florencia, standing tall with their tools, their homemade weapons, and one woman who reminded them how to fight. The woman with the wrench walked up beside Sam. "What now?" Sam looked out over the town. Thought for a long moment. "Now you rebuild. And I make sure they don't come back." "You're staying?" Sam smiled faintly. "For a while." The next morning, Sam was back behind the wheel of her truck. The trailer rumbled as it pulled out of town. She passed a few locals, now watching the streets like hawks. A little safer. A little braver. And somewhere down that open road, trouble would rise again. But next time, they'd think twice before messing with a woman in a truck. Especially this one.